Hello, grounded Taurus. As you move through August 15, 2026, there is a quieter shift taking place in the way you see the things you have spent so much time protecting, maintaining, and holding together. It may not arrive with dramatic noise. Instead, it can feel like a small change in your perspective. The moment you finally notice that something familiar does not necessarily mean something is still right for you. You have been learning that stability is valuable, but only when it gives you room to breathe, grow, and remain connected to yourself. For a while, you may have been giving more energy than you were receiving, staying patient with situations that depended heavily on your ability to endure. Then something inside you began to loosen, and you stopped trying so hard to preserve what was already exhausting you. That change can reveal more than you expected, because once you stop carrying everything alone, you begin to see which relationships, responsibilities, and commitments actually have roots of their own. The question now is not simply who still wants access to you, but what still deserves a place in the life you are carefully building. This matters especially in your relationships. If someone has become unusually curious about your choices, your distance, or the direction you are taking, pay attention to what sits underneath their attention. Genuine care leaves room for trust, while possessiveness can slowly disguise itself as concern, and you deserve to recognize the difference. If you are single, you may find yourself noticing a contrast between someone who offers emotional consistency and someone who creates excitement without offering anything solid beneath it. Rather than choosing what feels familiar or immediately flattering, ask yourself which connection actually respects your values, your boundaries, and the kind of relationship you want to build. There is also movement around your practical life, particularly wherever you have been questioning whether your effort is being valued appropriately. An opportunity could emerge through work, a new position, a creative direction, or a change in the way you use your abilities. But the important question is not simply whether something looks promising. Ask whether it can support the life you are trying to create, whether it reflects your worth, and whether the foundation underneath it is strong enough to grow with you. You do not have to abandon everything familiar simply because something new appears. Sometimes the wiser move is to strengthen what already works and finally stop investing in what continually takes more than it gives. Your relationship with money may also be asking for a more mature kind of confidence. Instead of measuring abundance only by how much arrives, notice how differently you are beginning to think about what you already have, what you are willing to invest, and what deserves your resources. There can be opportunities for greater stability, but discernment matters just as much as enthusiasm. Something can look attractive on the surface and still fail to offer the security or value you need. So let your decisions come from clarity rather than urgency. The deeper lesson here is about knowing what is worth building. The past may still carry memories, obligations, or unfinished feelings, but you are not required to keep every old structure standing simply because you were the one who helped build it. You can honor what something once meant to you while admitting that its place in your life may need to change. Stay close to your instincts, but give them enough quiet to speak beneath fear, habit, and the pressure to keep everyone else comfortable. And as these changes begin to take shape, remember that not every responsibility placed near you belongs in your hands. You can support someone, offer advice, help move something forward, or stand beside a person you care about, but you cannot live out promises they made for themselves. Carrying another person's obligations may feel like loyalty at first, yet over time it can quietly drain the very energy you need to care for your own life. Let each person meet their own commitments while you remain compassionate without abandoning your boundaries. You may also notice that news, conversations, or ordinary moments begin affecting your mood more than usual. When something encouraging arrives, allow yourself to enjoy it without needing to turn it into proof that everything is suddenly perfect. When something disappointing appears, give yourself space to feel it without letting one difficult moment define the entire landscape ahead of you. You are learning a steadier way of moving through change, one that does not require you to rush, cling, or control every outcome, because what you are building now needs to feel honest enough to keep growing with you. You may begin to feel a quieter kind of happiness settling into you, Taurus, as though the ground beneath your feet is becoming steadier after a period of uncertainty. The choices you have made, especially the ones that required you to honor yourself instead of simply preserving what was familiar, are creating a deeper sense of emotional clarity. Rather than needing everything around you to change at once, you are beginning to recognize which parts of your life are worth nurturing and which have been taking nourishment without giving much back. That awareness can bring a calm you've been longing for, while also opening space for connections and opportunities that feel more genuine. A lover speaks to meaningful choices made from a place of honesty, especially when your heart and your need for security seem to be asking different questions. For you, this card is less about dramatic attraction and more about recognizing whether a connection can actually support the life you are trying to build. You may find yourself becoming more willing to be vulnerable with someone who respects your pace, your values, and your boundaries, while also questioning whether familiarity has ever been enough to make a relationship truly fulfilling. The deeper invitation is to choose intimacy without abandoning yourself, allowing closeness to grow where trust and mutual effort have room to take root. Death brings another layer of transformation, pointing toward the release of an old belief, attachment, or relationship pattern that has quietly reached the end of its usefulness. This does not have to mean losing something you love. Sometimes transformation simply means admitting that the way you have been carrying something can no longer continue. A person close to you may also be changing their understanding of commitment, trust, or emotional responsibility, creating room for a more honest exchange between you. What once felt fixed may begin to loosen, and what emerges from that clearing can have a much healthier foundation than what came before. The King of Wands brings a different kind of confidence into your story, one that comes from knowing what you can create when you stop waiting for someone else to validate your abilities. You have been developing strength through experience, patience, and the quiet work of understanding yourself, and now that inner development can begin influencing the way you approach your ambitions. Whether you are nurturing a creative project, seeking greater recognition at work, or simply deciding to take yourself more seriously, this energy encourages purposeful initiative rather than reckless movement. You do not need to rush ahead. You need to trust that something carefully cultivated can become strong enough to stand on its own. The Ace of Pentacles then brings attention to the tangible side of your life. Resources, work, money, contracts, and opportunities that can contribute to greater stability. Rather than treating this as a promise of sudden financial abundance, consider it an invitation to notice where something practical may have the potential to grow if you approach it with patience and discernment. A useful opportunity can appear ordinary at first, and an impressive offer can sometimes contain conditions that deserve closer examination. Let your decisions reflect what you genuinely value, because prosperity becomes much more meaningful when it strengthens your foundation instead of simply adding more to your hands. Judgment carries the feeling of awakening and renewal, especially after a period in which you may have questioned whether certain parts of your life could ever shift. Your past experiences have not been wasted. They have taught you what you can tolerate, what you need, and what you are no longer willing to repeat. Something that once felt impossible to understand may become clearer as you look back with greater honesty, and that clarity can help you make choices without carrying the same emotional weight forward. Renewal here is not about becoming someone entirely different. It is about returning to yourself with a stronger understanding of what deserves your loyalty. Your body deserves that same kind of attention. Small changes in your daily rhythm can affect your energy more deeply than you may realize, and adequate sleep is one of the simplest forms of care you can give yourself. Give yourself some distance from screens and overstimulation before bed, allowing your mind and body to gradually settle instead of asking them to switch off the moment the day is over. You may notice that rest changes more than your energy. It can also change the way you respond to problems, relationships, and decisions that previously felt heavier than they needed to. Work deserves its proper place in your life, but it cannot become the container for every emotional need you have been avoiding. If you have been pushing yourself through an exhausting routine because productivity feels safer than slowing down, your body and mind may eventually ask for another way. Make room for activities that restore your sense of pleasure and presence, because stepping away from a problem can sometimes reveal the answer more clearly than forcing yourself to solve it through exhaustion. A work-related situation may still require patience and effort, but you do not have to sacrifice your entire sense of balance in order to move it forward. Your financial life can also begin to reflect the inner work you have been doing. Situations that felt stalled may gradually become easier to understand, especially when you approach contracts, payments, paperwork, or new opportunities with patience rather than urgency. Conversations and practical connections may reveal possibilities you had not considered, but discernment remains essential because not every opportunity carries the same substance beneath its surface. Let intuition point you toward what feels aligned, then let careful evaluation decide what deserves your resources. Your understanding of prosperity is changing as well. You are learning that feeling secure is not simply about accumulating more, but about knowing what you have, what you need, what you value, and where your energy is best invested. The small choices you make with intention can become meaningful progress when they are repeated consistently, like roots deepening beneath soil long before anything visible begins to bloom. And as you continue separating what is truly worth building from what you have only maintained out of habit, a different kind of abundance begins to take shape around you, one that feels steadier because it is being built from the inside outward. There is a quieter kind of happiness beginning to move through you, Taurus, and it may feel less like a sudden rush and more like the first warm morning after a long stretch of grey weather. After the decisions you have made and the moments when you chose yourself, even when it would have been easier to remain where you were, you may begin to feel a deeper sense of emotional steadiness returning. What matters now is not how quickly everything changes, but how clearly you can recognize what is worth continuing to build, protect, and nurture. Your energy becomes more settled as you release patterns that have kept you carrying more than your share. You may notice that opportunities and meaningful connections feel different when you are no longer trying to force them into place. The Lovers speaks here about choices rooted in values, reminding you that love is not only about attraction or emotion, it is also about whether two people can create something that feels mutual, honest, and secure. A connection may ask you to consider whether you are responding to genuine compatibility or simply holding on to something because its familiarity feels comforting. There can be a quiet transformation in someone close to you, or perhaps within your own understanding of what commitment means. Death does not need to represent loss in this reading. Symbolically, it can describe the moment an old structure has served its purpose and begins to loosen its hold. For you, Taurus, that may mean releasing an expectation, a relationship pattern, or a definition of security that once protected you but no longer allows you to grow. What falls away creates room for something more authentic, and you do not have to rush that process for it to be real. The King of Wands brings a different kind of confidence into your story. It is the confidence that comes from knowing what you have worked for, understanding what you can offer, and becoming less dependent on outside approval to recognize your own abilities. You may feel ready to take greater ownership of a creative idea, a professional direction, or something you have been quietly developing for longer than other people realize. Rather than proving yourself through constant effort, you are learning to let consistency, experience, and the quality of what you build speak for you. The Ace of Pentacles fits naturally into this part of your journey because it points toward tangible possibilities and the value of creating a solid foundation. A financial matter, contract, practical opportunity, or professional development may deserve your attention, but the deeper question is not simply whether something looks profitable. Ask yourself whether it respects your time, your resources, your abilities, and the future you are trying to create. Not every opportunity deserves your investment, and discernment becomes just as important as enthusiasm when you are deciding what deserves a place in your life. Judgment brings the theme of awakening and renewal into sharper focus. It represents the moment when you look back at an earlier version of yourself without shame and finally understand why certain choices were made, why certain lessons took so long to become clear, and why some doors could not remain open forever. You are not required to erase your past in order to move differently now. Instead, you can take what you have learned and use it to make choices that feel more honest, more deliberate, and more aligned with the person you have gradually become. There is also a message here about your physical well-being. Your body may notice the weight of stress before your mind is willing to admit that you have taken on too much, so give yourself permission to listen to those quieter signals. More sleep, fewer distractions before bed, and genuine time away from screens can help you reconnect with your natural rhythm. But the larger lesson is about presence, rather than following a perfect routine. You do not have to earn rest by exhausting yourself first, and taking care of your body is part of protecting the life you are trying to build. Work deserves a similar kind of honesty. There is value in dedication, but there is a difference between being committed to your work and allowing work to occupy every corner of your emotional life. If a professional problem has been weighing on you, stepping back for a little perspective may reveal something that constant effort has kept hidden. The answer may still require patience and practical action, but you are more likely to see the next step clearly when you stop treating exhaustion as proof that you are trying hard enough. Your financial story carries the same message of steadiness. Rather than promising sudden wealth or effortless gains, this energy is better understood as an invitation to become more intentional with what you already have and more selective about what you allow into your financial life. A delayed payment, contract, conversation, or professional possibility may begin to move in a more useful direction, but you still need to examine the details carefully. A promising offer is only valuable if the conditions make sense, the exchange is fair, and the opportunity supports the kind of stability you actually want. Your perspective on prosperity may also be changing from the inside out. You are beginning to understand that having more is not automatically the same as feeling secure, and maintaining appearances is not the same as having a strong foundation beneath you. The small decisions you make around saving, spending, negotiating, learning, and investing your energy can quietly shape something much larger over time. Let growth be measured by what becomes sustainable, not simply by what arrives quickly, because what lasts often begins in ways that are almost invisible. In love, your intuition deserves respect, but it also deserves room for reality. You can sense changes in someone's behavior, feel the atmosphere between you, and notice subtle shifts that others might overlook. Yet feelings can sometimes fill in the spaces where information is missing. Before deciding what another person means, wants, or feels, allow their actions and their words to give you something solid to work with. Your emotional intelligence becomes stronger when intuition and observation move together rather than when one replaces the other. If you are beginning a relationship, this can be a valuable time to let someone see more of who you are, without feeling that you have to reveal everything at once. Taurus can sometimes take time to feel completely safe, and there is nothing wrong with moving at a pace that allows trust to develop naturally. At the same time, remember that emotional safety should not require you to remain silent about your needs. A healthy connection has room for tenderness, honesty, boundaries, and the freedom for both people to show up as they really are. If you are already with someone, you may be entering a period where the difference between comfort and true closeness becomes easier to recognize. A familiar relationship can feel safe simply because you know its patterns, but familiarity alone does not tell you whether those patterns are still nourishing you. Ask yourself whether there is mutual effort, whether your needs have room to exist, and whether you are both still choosing the relationship rather than simply continuing it, because changing it feels difficult. Sometimes love grows stronger through honest adjustments, and sometimes honesty reveals what needs to change. If you are single, you do not need to reinvent yourself to become more desirable. Small changes to your appearance can certainly refresh your mood. A different hairstyle, a new pair of glasses, a different color, or clothing that feels more like you, but let those changes come from self-expression rather than the belief that you need to become someone else to attract love. There is no single version of beauty that you are required to follow. When you feel comfortable inhabiting your own choices, you become clearer about the kind of person and relationship that actually fit your values. Family carries a quieter form of renewal as well. As you become more honest about what you need and what you can realistically give, people close to you may begin responding differently to those boundaries. You can love your family deeply without automatically becoming the person who solves every problem, absorbs every emotion, or carries every responsibility. Loyalty is meaningful, But loyalty should not require you to abandon yourself, and learning that distinction can gradually change old family patterns without forcing anyone into a dramatic confrontation. There may be opportunities for more open conversations around things that were once difficult to express. A small gesture, a sincere question, a moment of appreciation, or simply allowing someone to know that you care can strengthen a bond more effectively than trying to fix everything at once. At the same time, your own independence deserves space within those relationships. You are allowed to build your life in your own way, while still making room for the people who matter. And that balance becomes especially important as your personal priorities continue to take shape. Your energy also needs moments of ease. Leisure is not evidence that you are falling behind, and rest does not have to be justified by productivity. Let yourself move your body, listen to music, laugh with someone you trust, take a quiet walk, cook something you enjoy, or simply spend time without trying to solve the next problem. For you, relaxation could be a way of returning to yourself, loosening the grip of constant responsibility, and remembering that a meaningful life is made from ordinary moments as much as major achievements. There is also an encouraging possibility around the people entering your world. Someone may introduce you to an idea, conversation, professional perspective, or emotional experience that changes the way you see something you thought you already understood. The important part is not assuming that every new person is destined to transform your life, but remaining open enough to recognize when a conversation genuinely expands your perspective. Sometimes growth arrives quietly through another person's way of thinking, and you may discover something about yourself simply because you were willing to listen. At the same time, be careful with obligations that do not truly belong to you. You can support someone, offer advice, share your experience, or help them find their footing without becoming responsible for the choices they ultimately make. There is a subtle difference between being dependable and becoming indispensable, and Taurus may need to remember that carrying everything yourself is not the only way to demonstrate love or loyalty. Let other people own their commitments, because allowing them that responsibility is healthier than creating a pattern where they depend on you to make every decision. If you are studying or preparing for an important goal, consistency will serve you better than panic. Organize what you already know, return to the material that genuinely needs attention, and trust the work you have been quietly accumulating rather than assuming you must start over every time doubt appears. There is no need to compare your pace with someone else's, because your progress becomes more useful when it is built on understanding rather than pressure. Keep showing up, one practical step at a time, and allow the structure you have created to support you. When it comes to compatibility, the most supportive connections for you are likely to be those where steadiness does not become stagnation and closeness does not become control. Earth energy can feel naturally reassuring because it understands patience, practical effort, and the desire to create something dependable, while another grounded personality may recognize your need for consistency without demanding that you move faster than you are ready to move. At the same time, a more energetic or adventurous connection can remind you that security does not have to mean staying in the same place forever, and that sometimes a new perspective can breathe fresh life into what you are already building. The deeper message running through all of this is simple, Taurus. You're learning to become more selective about what receives your time, your loyalty, your money, your attention, and your heart. You do not need to tear everything down simply because you are changing, but you also do not need to preserve something forever just because you once invested deeply in it. As you continue looking honestly at what is rooted, what has become stagnant, and what is ready to grow differently, you begin to understand that real stability is not about holding on to everything. It is about knowing what is truly worth building and letting that understanding shape what comes next.